Welcome to the Big Bets on Campus podcast presented by BetMGM. I'm your host, Jim Root, joined by the rest of the three-man weave crew, Kai McEwen and Matt Cox. We are your midweek Wednesday hosts on BBOC here, stepping in for Stuckey and the fellas. Every Wednesday, of course, we'll be dropping a new episode, talking all things betting in the world of college basketball. Today's episode, we get your standard format here. We're going to talk key games of the week, a trash man pick of the week, the worst game out there. And of course, Matt, we're tipping off with live dogs of the week. And we at least had a little bit of bounce back this week after a nightmarish week prior. We all hit on Texas A&M outright consensus. The three of us all agreed Texas A&M at Auburn. That's a money line backer. And they basically led by double digits the whole way. That's nice. Got that out of the way. Oregon State and Portland got trounced, sadly. But hey, 1 out of 3 with these at close to plus 300, we'll take them, or at least some of the times it's up there. That's not so bad. All right. Let's get into what I'm considering for this week. I think it's a lot heavier Thursday for moneyline dogs than it is Wednesday. That's just the sense I got as I looked through it. But we'll start with 2 on Wednesday that at least intrigued me. Southern Illinois plus 6 at Bradley in the Missouri Valley, 2 teams near the top of that league. And then Maine plus 7 at Bryant. Maine has been pretty solid this year, a lot better than in the past. And Bryant is a very erratic, high variance type of team, given the amount of threes they take. Kai, I'll go to you first here. Are you looking at either of these games, an in-state Illinois battle or something out east in the America East?
You know, the Bradley game worries me, Jim. Bradley is really good at home. Really good at home. They're 9-2 against the spread this season. Whatever makes Peoria such a special place, I don't know. But
nice town.
They don't lose often here. Now, Southern Illinois is certainly a very, very good team, but I think I would more so be willing to back them at their place versus at Bradley. So staying off that one. As for Maine, I do think they're a much better home team as well. But this Bryant team's been anything but certain. I'm also going to stay away from this one, Jim, from an outright perspective.
Jim almost pulled the trigger on SIU. The early peek ahead lines are out for Wednesday. Bet Online has this Bradley -6, so right in line with KenPom, and Bryant basically at 7.5. So on par with the KenPom projections there. I kind of like SIU at this value. Just think it could turn into a slog. SIU can do that to Bradley. And as good as Bradley's been, I think they are not immune to scoring droughts. Something you want to fade if you're looking to pick on him as a money line dog here. I kind of like my Salukis, Kai. I kind of like him here as a money line dog.
Yeah, do you?
By the end of the section, I might add him to the official list. I have him on the fringe right now, though. Go ahead, Jim.
It's two teams that play similar, like very defensive minded, athletic, gritty, tough. I mean, that's kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Engraved, embedded.
Yeah,
emboldened.
Emblematic. That's what I'm looking for. Emblematic of this league as a whole, Missouri Valley, and so that could lead to the dog hanging around. But I agree. I'm not actually backing I'm not backing SIU. I'm going to take Maine. I've been kind of a believer in Markwood all year. They got a big victory over UMass Lowell earlier this season. As Kai mentioned, that was at home. Bradley just seems like there's something off about them. Bryant. Something off with Bryant in the America East. I thought they would be a dominant top 2 team, and they're barely hanging around. Their talent level is way better than a lot of the other squads in the league, but they're just inconsistent. They don't seem like they have a true pecking order chemistry thing figured out, which is always concerning when you bring in as much talent to the portal as they did. So I'll back Maine, half spread, half money line. I think I'll go with there. Thursday, though, guys, a whole lot of candidates, I think. And I'm curious if you came up with any more on Wednesday or Thursday, but I'll just fly through 5 that I listed. I ended up playing 2 of them. We'll talk about that at the end. But Towson is plus 6 at Hofstra. Towson's won 6 straight. They already thrashed Hofstra by 21 once this year. So perhaps a matchup antidote sort of thing. Washington State plus 5 at USC. TJ Bamba back for Washington State. They have the size to defend. However, USC has had a full week off to prepare, so perhaps that is a mitigating factor. Michigan plus 6 at Northwestern. Jet Howard's back. Michigan needs to stay above 500 overall if they have any hope of making the NCAA tournament, so kind of a backs against the wall game. UTEP plus 7 at Tennessee. UTEP, a very defensive-minded squad. And then the opposite of that, Wright State plus 8 at Youngstown. This could be a shootout, total 161. Big time fireworks scoring in that one. Maybe a little tougher to figure out the outcome. Matt, you first. That's 5 of them. Do you like any of those? Do you like any others that I did not mention? Hit me with it.
I like two. I really like Towson here. Yeah, this just is a spot where I think Towson got undervalued when Holden was out. And Hofstra, obviously, with a little bit of inflated value off of the monstrous, or with the Charleston game fresh in the rear view, obviously shot the lights out there. Yeah, Hofstra's very good. I just think Towson's actually better. So you're getting potentially the better team here at probably a plus 175. Maybe up to 2-1 price here for Moneyline Dog. I like Towson, and I also love Wright State. There's whispers, Kai, that I'm going to permeate throughout the ozone. Youngstown, sell.
Really? Why?
They don't guard anything. Transition D, very porous. I think their offense has been awesome, but their offense is highly reliant on their ability to score in transition. Calhoun's talked about this. He's like, yeah, man, we're awesome in transition, but you get us out of transition, make us play a half-court game. Not that Wright State's the best at doing that, right? But I'm taking a really good coach here in Scott Nagy, the perennial powerhouse of this conference, and an all-time low point. This number should be close to like plus 225, maybe 250, even hopefully. Knock on wood. I just think Youngstown's a little bit of a fade right now. So that's my angle with that one. I got two on the slate. Good. Thank you for the filter, Jim.
Happy to help.
Yeah,
Kai, what do you think?
scary one there, I think. Wright State, I mean, talk about not defending. Wright State does not defend.
Well, yeah.
Youngstown, good home team. But yeah, I'm staying away that one. I respect your take there. I'm taking Towson for sure. I do think the first game was indicative of just how this team can dominate Hofstra. In fact, they swept them last year as well. It's possible as Pat Scarry just has the manual on Speedy Claxton, his Hofstra pride. And I agree. Towson was arguably, I think not even arguably, the favorite to win the Colonial in the preseason. They're certainly playing more to that level. So I think you're getting some nice value here at +6 or a money line. And then I'm taking Michigan as well, Jim. Again, Michigan, a team that did beat Northwestern as well at their place. I think this team is more than talented enough to do it again in Chicago, in Evanston. Not a super strong home court, and Michigan, off that really terrible loss to Penn State, should be slightly undervalued, should be hungry to get back in the win column, stick around in the tourney picture.
Yeah, I'm with you, Kai. I'm taking Michigan. I think that's a really good spot for them. Jet Howard back healthy, hopefully giving them a little more offensive juice. And while I do respect Northwestern this year, the home court is tough for them. It's not as strong. And Kai, as you pointed out on another show that we work on, Northwestern's defense hasn't been as dominant as it was in the non-con. So with that in mind, Michigan's pick and roll defense still a little concerning in this one against Bowie and Adige, but I think Michigan is at some point going to get motivated enough to really start playing up to their talent. Dickinson especially. I mean, he's coming off a really, really poor game. So the other one I'm taking is Wazoo. Matthew, I was surprised you didn't join me here.
Yeah,
your Cougs. They're 361st nationally in luck per KenPom. They are way better than that 10-13 record indicates. Lost a lot of close games. I think they can hang with USC. And while there's less of a risk of a UCLA win hangover because it's been a week for USC, that is still the last game they played. And perhaps they're not quite as amped for Washington State as they were for their crosstown rival there. All right, so quick recap. Although I guess I'll open it to you guys. Any other ones you are looking at that I did not mention, Matt or Kai?
I got nothing, Jim. Nothing.
Matthew?
Yeah, no, great filter, Jim. You scoured the earth and you brought back the best diamonds for us to choose from. So thank you for doing so.
I do what I can. I'm glad that the filtration process worked as expected. I'm taking Maine, Washington State, and Michigan. I'm going to continue splitting those between spread and money line because I want to have a chance at the cover, but also the upside of the money line. Kai, what about you?
Towson and Michigan for me, 2 6-point dogs per KenPom. We'll see where the actual spreads lie.
Towson and Wright State for me. Just don't trust Michigan at this point. I'm just really sick of that team, and I think Wright State is a great dog to send into battle with my fade Youngstown angle. So let's go Raiders.
That's out on the Penguins. Shocking, jarring, sad to see him.
Scary.
Such disrespect to the Penguins, the home Penguins in their home igloos. Tough team to beat. All right, let's move on to the next section. That would be Blowout City. This has been a house of horrors for us, I will say. We're struggling to find the blowouts, but I think we said every week, be careful of these picks. Like, we're not even endorsing them that strongly because it's hard to find blowouts in league play. There's a lot of feisty dogs. That said, guys, I love the first one here. Liberty -14 at Austin P on Thursday. These are two teams just skyrocketing in different directions. Liberty is obliterating league competition. like shooting up advanced analytical rankings. They've won 6 straight games by 11 or more. On the other hand, Kai, Austin P has lost 6 straight games by 11 or more. They are descending into the depths. I'm actually surprised that this is only 14 per KenPom because there's almost a 300 rank gap between them in KenPom's actual rankings there. It's mostly tempo. It's going to be a slow game, so there's not as many possessions for it to bear out. But I think with the form they're in, Liberty just deconstructs this Austin P team.
Yeah, and the ASUN is conducive to blowouts. They're the 4th highest blowout percentage in the country this season in conference play. 20% of these games are over 19 points, decided by over 19 points. That's mostly because they have Liberty in this conference, who is dominant. Best defense by a mile in this league. The difference between Liberty and the second best team defensively, I can't even calculate it. It'd be a difference between like the 1st and 100th team in the country this season overall. And Austin Peay's offense has been terrible, dead last in this conference, and they've been hurt. They've been really, really hurt. Sean Robinson, Stone Carrawell, both in and out of the lineup. There's just no consistency. I agree with this pick here, Liberty blowing them out.
Yeah, I've been I don't buy Liberty guy. Like Liberty as like this holy crap top 40 fringe team, but I am super in on the fade Austin P thing. To me, it's like you can draw the line from Stone Carrawell going out to their demise. They basically won 2 whatever games, and then they've been disastrous ever since, right? Got beaten back-to-back games against Lipscomb. It's been a slow and very steady demise since. So I think they keep falling even farther. There's just not a lot of talent here, especially with those injuries. I mean, even Paez has been like, James is like not starting him and starting him. It just seems like nothing's working. It's a throw your hands up. This is all a failure.
Yeah, given where it's at 14, I bet with those injuries, it's probably up closer to 16, 17. I would lay up to 18 here. I think the Flames just eviscerate them. Matt, nice job muting there. Not. Good try.
Missed the mute button. Wow, tough.
The spread will be higher than 14. I'm almost sure of it. And that's okay. I'm okay with that. I'd lay a higher than that. The other one I wanted to bring up, not as giant of a spread, not as like a great team versus bad team, but Arizona State, Matt, has lost 4 straight games. That's rather shocking for a team that was definitely in the NCAA tournament picture. They've maybe fallen outside of the field at this point. Now they're hosting Oregon State, who's won 2 of their last 3, maybe riding a little bit of high. Do you think this is a potential get right with home blowout and make statement to committee type of game for the Sun Devils?
Yes, and if they're smart, I think you look at that 66 next to your name in KenPom, you pull up, the net. What are they in the net right now? I think they're looking at their analytic metrics, at least they should, and say, crap, now we're going to be back to this bubblicious territory. We got to juice those all we can. Oregon State comes to town. You don't give any opportunities to lay on, to lay the wood pretty heavy. I don't think they're going to let up here, Kai. At least they shouldn't if they're smart. So, yeah, I think you get that motivational angle plus the spot. God, laying double digits with the Sun Devils doesn't give me a ton of excitement with the form they're in, but I kind of think they do smack Oregon State, which is basically a JV team talent-wise.
Yeah, well, that plus this was a 5-point game in Corvallis, plus Oregon State can really muck games up. I don't feel confident in the double-digit spread. Now, Oregon State's lost by this many points 4 or 5 times in league play. It's very possible for them to get blown out, but I'm not sure Arizona State's team to do it. I'll probably sit this one out.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the angle, and we're going to discuss this angle a little bit in the spotlight section, is looking at these bubble teams that need to improve metrics and how much that filters through into their performances. Again, we'll discuss that again at the end of the pod. Stick around for more talk on that. It's time to hit the big ones, the big kahunas of Wednesday and Thursday. And it's pretty much all Wednesday, guys. Mid-major has a little bit more going on Thursday, but we're starting with Wednesday. Providence at Xavier. Initial spread here, Xavier laying 4 at home, a huge one. These teams are among the 3-way tie atop the Big East, along with Marquette. And Kai, none of those 4 teams have won on the road at one of the other 4. So the top teams in the Big East have all held serve at home. That would certainly lead you towards a potential Xavier bet here. I know it's 4 points. Providence hangs around. How do you feel about this game?
I'm winning Xavier here, Jim. For my money, the way better team than Providence, and no disrespect to the Friars. I frankly don't know how they're this good. Credit Ed Cooley, I suppose. Credit, I guess, a unique combination of players plus Bryce Hopkins really developing into an all-conference player. But I just think Xavier, top to bottom, has more talent. I think they have way more offensive juice. And I think they're a little bit better coached. No offense to Cooley again. I think Sean Miller's done a great job with Xavier. And if it's 4 points, I think it's a little short. I think they can get the job done here, Matt.
I'm with you. 4 seems way too short via KenPom. We'll see what it actually opens up. I would wager 5, maybe even 6. Hopefully not, because I'm looking to back the X here as well. This could be Cooley's best team ever. Like, that's on the heels of last season, which was mostly, the analytic numbers clearly depicted that as more of a mirage, although it was a very impressive year. They've had really good teams in the past, and this might be his best team. And kind of with you. I think it's just an awesome Cooley coaching job. I don't fully buy the talents like next level elite, even though Hopkins has been kind of the difference maker. I think X is just a more complete, well-rounded team, Jim. I worry about their defense. Sometimes they do the old Matador, go right by us type of thing. And then the Zach Freemantle angle, I know he's dicey as well. So I still like X, but there are some concerns that worry me.
Yeah, I make this probably around 5. So if you give me, Matt, you're talking 6, maybe north of that, 6.5. Like, Cooley as an underdog is fantastic. Road dog, He's like a 60% shot through his whole career at Providence. So if you give me more points, 2 possessions, I'll probably lean towards Cooley. But I do think Xavier wins. Like, if you were thinking like money line type stuff, you want a team that feels safe-ish. It would be Xavier. Just from a pure numerical value sense, as this ticks up, I want to take a look at Cooley. All right, Tennessee at Florida. Next game. Tennessee -8 per Mr. Pomeroy at the Gators. Florida in one of the hardest schedule stretches you will find. They just played at Kansas State, now at Tennessee. Then they got Alabama and at Kentucky coming up. Like, just as ridiculous as you can find. You get like 2 to 3 1 seeds in there. Kansas State up in that 2 seed competition as well. Kentucky's surging at this stage, not an easy place to play. All that said, Matt, where do we land on this one? Tennessee just looked invincible against Texas. Florida got boat raced by Kansas State. They have struggled against higher level competition dating back to the UConn game, dating back to their trip to Portland. Are they able to stand up here against the Vols in what feels like a monster game for Todd Golden in his first season?
I think this game stays within like the high teens. I just think it's going to be tough to really bury Florida because they're playing a little bit, I think, more conservative. I know their last 2 games did play at 73 possessions, surprising, but that last one against K-State was 114 on the total. I think Florida has really leaned into we're going to play low games, right? Low scoring games, defense. That's our path to victory. I think that type of blueprint keeps this game within the cover range because it's going to be such a big spread given how good Tennessee's been, Kai. Even as the Florida guy here on this podcast, I'm not going to back the Gators. I do think this is probably one that stays around the number the whole time. It's hard for me to back Tennessee on the road in this spot against Florida, but hard for me to trust Florida's offense. So maybe the under is the right play.
Yeah, my number will probably lean towards Florida, and I will ignore it because I don't think this Gators team can compete with Tennessee. They're not going to score. Tennessee's defense is way too good. Florida's offense is not good. They cannot shoot. That's a big deal against Tennessee. And Castleton's not going to get anything. Plavsic is a big dude himself, but also Tennessee's other front court pieces are big and strong, and their middle defense is really, really, really good. I don't see how Florida keeps this close. I'm probably taking Tennessee or nothing here, Jim.
Yeah, we talked about crock pottings a little before with the way Virginia plays slow and just methodically pulls you apart. There's a chance Tennessee gets up 18-2 and it's more than a crock potting, but I think worst case for the Vols, they give up 50 points to Florida and find their way to 65 against a really good Gators defense, but that offense is abysmal and it's just only getting worse. And Tennessee just you don't hit perimeter shots against them. Florida can't shoot. It's going to be a struggle for the Gators. Unfortunately, it'd probably be Tennessee or nothing for me. And that one, Gators aren't getting any closer to the bubble. Breaking news, by the way, as we are on the pod here. Matt, you mentioned Freemantle being dicey. He is out at least a month, reported, confirmed. So Xavier going to be short-handed. Get it? Zach Freemantle, broken hand. So Freemantle out for quite a while. That affects that Xavier handicap. Certainly doubt it's up around 5 or 6 at this stage without him. Not as deep in the front court. Got to play a little bit smaller, a lot of minutes for Jack Nungy. Ed Cooley on the road dog, starting to be at least slightly more appealing there. All right, last one to talk about in Power Game of the Week here. Bedlam. It's a big one, Bedlam on Wednesday. Oklahoma State at Oklahoma. Sooners, 3-point home favorite per Mr. Pomeroy. A lot of wild games between these two in the past. This is a massive game for bubble purposes. Both of them are probably the next 4 out territory. They're not right on the cut line, but they're close. Oklahoma just picked up a monster win against Alabama, has them actually a lot closer to the field. There's a chance they're even in right now. Both these teams could really use a victory here, Kai. How do you see this one shaping up in Oklahoma?
Game 1 was a disaster for the Sooners. They lost by 16. It was a really poor shooting display, 4 for 15 from deep. I tend to think that reverses in this one. Oklahoma State's defense is legit. It's that good. But OU at home, they're just as good as the Oklahoma State team. Cisse not all the way back quite yet for OK State. He might come off the bench, but certainly on a minutes count. I lean towards OU here in such a heated rivalry, especially with the one loss already on the resume, Matt, against this Cowboys team.
Yeah, I bet OU confidently in this first matchup. Felt pretty good about it to start, and then that quickly eroded. Yeah. Neither team I can get a read on. I think 2 of my least profitable teams betting on or against all season. I want to back Oklahoma again. Just not super excited to do so, Jim, when you just beat Alabama by freaking 25 or whatever. I do think that's not great. And that was also, as many people on Twitter pointed out, a pretty awesome matchup advantage for Oklahoma with how Alabama defends and how OU's kind of inverted forwards and mobile, versatile forwards can exploit how they defend. So maybe OU reminds us all that they're just a well-coached, but ultimately not that talented team. And I think the Pokes might actually sweep them here.
Yeah, the talent is centered in a couple places. Like Grant Sherfield went bananas against Alabama. That's one of their most talented guys. If he's on like that, they're really tough to stop. Oklahoma State is 8-3 against the spread at home, not nearly as effective on the road. So maybe you get them in more of a down spot here. I actually perceived Oklahoma as a lot better at home too, but they're only 4-6-1 against the number at home. Some early season struggles against Sam Houston and Pine Bluff and South Alabama, really bringing those numbers down. But in league play against higher competition, they've been solid at home. So I kind of lean towards the Sooners in that home spot, revenge, bounce back. It feels like these two teams are even enough that they'll split, but that's not altogether a reason to lay 3. So hard to get involved in that one. So nothing on Thursday for Power Game of the Week, which means we're going to move right on into mid-major game of the week. The big one is on Thursday, but we're going to start Wednesday. That is New Mexico at Utah State. Huge one in the Mountain West here. Kai, we are bracketology nerds. We know how much Utah State needs this for their tourney resume. They've got good metric type ratings, but they have no Q1 wins and 2 Q4 losses. It's almost impossible to get into the field with that combination. Meanwhile, New Mexico sitting a lot prettier, probably like the 8-9 territory. Very athletic team, could give Utah State problems that way. How do you perceive this game playing out?
Yeah, I love this New Mexico team. They're fantastic. They're electric. Love their guard play. Having said that, Utah State, very, very tough place to play. The Spectrum Center, that home court really is something to reckon with. I think that might be the difference here in this game. The spread around 3 is probably going to be right. I'm probably going to stay off it, but I would lean towards the home team here. Just some special magic there in that venue, Matthew.
Yeah, kind of a minor note. I think Donovan Dent is out for this game. I know his numbers aren't eye-popping. I watch him play. I'm like, this guy's awesome. He's like the ultimate X factor for this Lobo. So athletic. He's the cheat code. We need a bucket late. Go get us one. Like he's almost like more effective than House and Mashburn at doing that. But just something to note. I think he does kind of matter in that regard. But nothing for me here.
Yeah, Utah State has struggled against
Mashburn. I'll take Mashburn and House over Dent. Thanks.
Yeah, Mashburn's their
Dent's really good though. Yeah. Dent's really good though. That's all I'm saying.
He's going to be awesome next year and the year following. Dent. Right now he's kind of like the erratic freshman off the bench guard. But Utah State against San Diego State, Boise, Nevada, I think they've struggled with the length and athleticism of those teams. And New Mexico brings that a little bit, particularly at the 3 through 5 spots. Utah State, beautiful offense, but it's tough for them to manufacture great shots against those high-level athleticism teams. But it's tough home court, so I am, once again, torn. Can't give a super strong recommendation on that one. All right, guys, let's talk Thursday. I have a very strong take in this one. Hopefully you'll agree. Florida Atlantic -1 at UAB. Mathematically, this is the toughest test left on FAU's schedule. The only game at 50% or below of win probability. Now, UAB is a hard team to crack right now. Jelly Walker has not been playing. Apparently it's a pain tolerance thing. So at any point he could be out there and good to go. He's been cleared by doctors. And Kai, the Blazers looked a lot better over the weekend after suspending Ty Brewer and Xavier Davis. It seemed like they kind of circled the wagons and had a lot more going for them there. Now they take on FAU. FAU also has to go to Charlotte on Saturday. What are you looking at with this game?
Love this FAU squad. By far the best mid-major in the country. They're awesome. Had the pleasure of watching them on TV the other day. This UAB team, if Jelly Walker is in, I actually lean their way. They should have won this first matchup. They were up 6 points late, under 4 to play at FAU. Very impressive effort. I do think the Davis and Brewer subtractions are an indeed addition. Probably some chemistry issues folded into there. But Matt, if Jelly is out again, I cannot take UAB. In fact, I'd probably lean FAU if that was the case.
I'm taking FAU regardless, Jim, all the way on my Owls. This is like you get this win and you feel really good about your at large. Like, not like it's a lock, but man, this is, you're right, kind of the last big hurrah for. It reminds me of the San Francisco, who did they play last year where they got their big win late in the year that kind of felt like it solidified. I think it was the WCC tournament, but it feels like this is that big milestone win for a program that's never been in the tournament, never been this good. They need this win. So I think they get it. I do.
Yeah, I'm all in with them too, Matt. That was my angle on this. I just think they're better. And UAB, while they did look sharper without Davis and Brewer, I think that's part of what would make them a tough matchup is the length and athleticism and Davis's physicality in the paint. FAU rocks. Like, if you haven't watched them, if you're listening to this pod, they are 7 guards and wings that can create their own shot plus 2 dominant centers that they rotate. And so they've got 4 shooters on the floor at all times, 4 guys that can run a pick and roll at all times. And they always have 1 guy that can score with his back to his basket, can protect the rim. It's just such a fun blend of players that go 9 deep with that. And everybody's dangerous. Yeah, I think FAU has kind of figured things out, and they get up for their biggest games. The result at home is a little concerning. I think the fact that UAB kind of almost had them beat at FAU is alarming, but I'm still riding with them. I'm riding with the Owls.
They did go to the tournament 2002. I forgot about that. So this will be their second tournament appearance.
That's what I was going to say. Also, UAB is desperate for this game. They need this too. So I don't know. This is their biggest game of the season remaining. So there's angles on both sides here.
Yep. All right. From the top of the mid-major world to the very bottom in the trash man pick of the week, it's LIU at Merrimack. Merrimack is an 11-point favorite. They are taking on the worst team in the country per KenPom, 363rd, very, very bottom. Definitely a bottom 3 team any way you slice it. This LIU squad is bleak. Front court is bad. Turned over their roster right before the season because of a late questionable coaching change. And then, Matt, on the other side, you have Merrimack, who had a streak of 16 straight games that went under the total. So you have that against one of the worst teams. How do you get excited about this game?
Well, you don't, Jim. Part of me is I like not following a few team or like conferences like these low majors, and you look at spreads after kind of feeling ignorant. I almost think it's actually works in your favor here. Like LIU, I know they're terrible, but like plus 11, like Merrimack's been awful too. Like, why are we not taking plus 11 here? No, stupid.
Good luck,
Kai. Okay, good luck. I'll need it for sure.
I don't think it's necessarily stupid, but it's worth noting LIU is one of the worst ATS teams in the country. Like their spreads are huge every game. They're still 5-13 against the spread. It's pretty dire. Now Merrimack plays so slow that it might just be impossible for them to blow a team out. They've beaten 2 teams this year by 12, and that's it. That's the highest margin of victory for them this year. It's 12 points. So that's about what the spread is at. I bet it might be even higher than 11. Now against zone, you look up LIU stats, pretty good. Really small sample size, but currently 90th percentile in points per possession. I doubt that stays the course against Merrimack. Their zone's a bit different. They definitely force turnovers, and LIU is literally the worst offensive and defensive team in the NEC right now. I wouldn't take LIU against anybody.
Yeah, that's where I land. I think you can make a lot of cases for LIU in the sense that Merrimack is one of the worst offenses in the country, and you're going to lay double digits with them. They're one of the worst rebounding teams both ways in the country, and you're going to lay double digits with them. They've scored 70 points twice this season. Both were in losses. They have not scored 70 in a win. They only score by strangling you, or they only win by strangling you. Does that really play up for an 11-point favorite? I don't know. But Matt, I can't do it. I can't do it with LIU. I can't get on board with those Sharks.
Only D1 win was without their presumed best player this year, so that all makes sense, right?
Yeah,
Marco Malatic. How do you say his name? He's a
Malatic.
Sharpshooter.
Yeah, nothing makes sense.
Nothing makes sense.
It's bleak for LIU. They've got a long rebuild ahead of them, or quick work in the portal this offseason. We'll see what Mr. Strickland can do. All right, let's get to our last section here. It is the spotlight on bubble battles. I kind of alluded to this earlier, said we talk about it. We discussed some bubble teams, the Oklahoma schools, Utah State, Florida, Arizona State. And just before we talk a couple more matchups, general question, Kai, do you factor this in, the idea that these teams are desperate, they need to increase their own metrics, and it's a little bit more important to them than a team that's fighting for a 1 or 2 seed or a team that's completely out of the tournament? As we go down the stretch here, is this something you're at least going to have in the back of your mind when you're handicapping?
Maybe. It's a really good talking point for gambling shows, Jim. So it's something we'll probably bring up multiple times on our own show. In reality, I don't know if it actually makes a difference. It's really hard to do a data project on this and see if teams in these situations actually play better. Theoretically, they should. And frankly, though, Matt, I think it's all talk. It's, you guys, we really need this one. Well, okay, you're not going to make your team play better just by saying that. And hey, the other team doesn't want to lose either. They're college kids. They want to win this game. That's right, kids. I said kids, Matthew. I might consider, Jim, if I'm leaning towards that team anyways, maybe just a deciding factor that pushes me over the edge, but certainly not going to take a team just solely based on that.
Yeah, I'll cherry pick it. I'll move the goalpost. I'll tell you why it matters for teams I like and why it doesn't for teams I don't. So that's what everyone out there who talks publicly about this stuff will do too. So just know I don't think there's any real true data that discerns this as a legit angle. But it's always case by case. And I do think it's something worth being aware of for sure.
Here's my anecdotal sense of it. I think it matters more in games like the Arizona State one, where winning by more is important, than it does in games where it's a coin flip who's going to win. Like, I don't think it adds to your motivation to win, but if you're late in a game where we're up 7 and we could just, go to sleep, pull our starters for the last 30 seconds, or in the final 2 minutes, we're up 6 and we want to win by 12. Like, I think there is something to that, extending the lead a little bit, because on the other side, if the game's already decided, the other team's probably not going to be motivated to keep it to a 6-point deficit versus 12. So if you do have something like that where it's a good team versus a lesser team that could potentially blow them out, then I'll factor it in. But if it's a coin flip game, both teams are going to be trying just as hard. No real edge in that. All right, a couple that I want to just discuss here. Big bubble games on Wednesday and Thursday. We won't get into the weekend. We'll leave that to Stuckey and Co. But Seton Hall at St. John's on Wednesday. Both teams definitely on the fringes of the at-large discussion. Not super in the mix right now, but they could get there. They've got time and opportunities in the Big East. Kai, just in general, we won't even break down the matchup. Which one of these do you prefer long-term, the Pirates or the Red Storm?
The Pirates, for sure. I believe in Holloway a little bit more than Mike Anderson. I think the defense is for real. And I do like the talent on the offensive end, especially if Alexis Yetna ever comes back. Who knows if he's ever going to play this season, but I buy Hall more long-term. Posh Alexander's been out last couple of games for St. John's and almost blew a game at Georgetown recently. Just not a team I trust this season.
Yeah, that's where I land. Matt, your question. Pitt at UNC, they're getting 7 per KenPom. Penn State at number 1 Purdue getting 10. Pitt's right there to be in. Penn State maybe 1 or 2 spots outside of the field, given some of the projections I've seen. Which one of these 2 road teams from the state of Pennsylvania is more likely to get a big win? Pitt at UNC or Penn State at Purdue?
I think Pitt. I think Jeff Capel goes back to his former Duke days as a player, puts his mind in that old, blue blood Tobacco Road rivalry. He gets his Pitt boys. I think they play well. The guards are awesome. You could argue that with the erratic nature of UNC's backcourt, the better backcourt might be on Pitt's side just for this one game. Certainly a good angle if you're looking to find a dog here. And in Penn State, you're right, Jim. You talked about this in the notes here. The matchup's just too against them. They can spread you out and shoot it, but they've proven they can't stop the legit big guys up front in this conference, right? Penn State, until Shrewsbury finds some resistance at their end, they're going to struggle against the Dickinsons and the TJDs and the EDs, et cetera, on this league.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think it's definitely Pitt, and the spread is lower for a reason, so it's indicating it's more likely. But Pitt's already won at Northwestern, NC State, and Syracuse. Like those are solid road wins.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Georgia Tech, Louisville, whatever, throw those out. But especially Northwestern and NC State, those are tournament caliber teams, and Pitt's already won on the road at those places. And meanwhile, Penn State has already played Purdue, and they just really struggled with. You have to send doubles to Edie. I mean, every team has to, but Penn State is particularly small. And they weren't really able to take as much advantage on the offensive end, spreading out, barely got over 1 point per possession against the Boilermakers. Not a home game, not a true home game. That was at the Palestra, but now it's a true road game at Mackey. I fear for what happens in the paint in that game. That's probably a blowout. All right, one more or two more, I guess, to mention here on Thursday. Kai, this one is actually a really big bubble battle. Both teams are in the mix and need it. Wisconsin at Ohio State. Now it's the 7-point spread because of where these two land analytically. Ohio State way up there in those projections, but the profiles are going in the wrong direction for tournament likelihood. Who do you like here, whether it's against the spread or just going forward for a potential bid?
Going forward with Ohio State for sure. I've given up on the Badgers here. The spot of all spots against Illinois last game at home, Kohl Center, should have been a win, and they just peed down their legs. The offense is a real issue. They cannot score.
It's
even
terrible.
with Wall on the floor, they struggle.
Terrible on offense.
It's a big problem. And Ohio State has legit players on this team. I still think they can make the tournament. Now, 7 points is a lot, but I'm kind of done betting on Wisconsin until future notice.
I told you Wisconsin stinks, guys. I'm glad you finally came around to it. The issue here is that I think they can compete with Ohio State with the way Ohio State's playing until Ohio State figures what their identity is. And again, I think we talked about how they kind of lost it. So what I foresee here is a spot where Wisconsin maybe competes with, if not shocks, Ohio State on the road, and then they come back home. And I'm actually going to bet the Purple Kittens, Kai, on Sunday, Northwestern at Wisconsin.
I'm just going to remind you of Wisconsin's non-con, Matt. Lost by 1 to Kansas in overtime, beat USC, beat Marquette away in overtime, beat Iowa away in overtime. Wisconsin used to be good. There was reason to believe it's
years ago. Iowa was an asterisk. Marquette was a great spot.
No
Kansas,
here.
great. Fine. I don't know. Well, yeah, Kansas was at the ballroom with it's the stupid Bahamas auditorium. It's dumb. No, Wisconsin's not any good.
You can't caveat Marquette. That's one of the best wins of the year.
Yeah,
great
Marquette. It's rivalry, I guess, maybe.
It's not a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, Wisconsin's
was a great spot. We broke it down in this program. It was an excellent spot. It was an all-time spot.
Come on, Wisconsin's lost 6 of 7. Ohio State's lost 7 of 8. Behave, children. I'm slapping you both on the wrist. I'm Tony Realitying, timeouting you, mute, -1 point for both of you.
That's one of my favorite shows growing up.
Yeah, there you go.
Loved it.
Yeah, both these teams are playing very, very poorly right now. And maybe you make a case for one of them rallying, but I think it'll be more whoever wins is just less bad right now. So as Matt said, maybe you look to fade either one of them in the following game. Oregon is 9-point dog at Arizona. They're not quite dead, but man, they've got 2 Q3 losses, poor metrics. They just need to stack up wins. Last point to make here, as I said initially, I think some of we're a bubble team, we need to improve metrics can matter when you are better, clearly better than the other team, and you can increase the margin. That would apply to Utah hosting Stanford, Mizzou hosting LSU, and even Creighton, as great as they are analytically, are pretty far down there in the bubble picture because of the losses they took early in the year. They're at Georgetown. They have every incentive to win that game by 30. So keep an eye on some of those bigger spreads for favorites that potentially could improve their standing with big wins. That wraps it up for us today, fellas. That's it on our episode of Big Bets on Campus. Thank you to BetMGM for sponsoring the episode. You'll catch Stuckey and friends on Friday going through their typical episode. But for now, we appreciate you tuning in, and we'll see you next Wednesday.